Well, I had one overwhelming thought when I heard about the MP's inquiry into fake news. What a load of hypocritical nonsense. The inquiry is meant to investigate how false stories start, how they're spread online, and how they impact on democracy. That sounds a good idea, but I don't think the MPs looking into it realise that they're actually part of the problem. And I don't think fake news is new. Our politicians and media have been manipulating information for decades, centuries even. More recently, what was the claim made by Brexiteers about £350 million coming back to our NHS if it wasn't fake news? The inquiry's been set up because of claims that fake news influenced the US election, but papers in this country have influenced our politics for years. Remember, it's the Sun what won it after the 1992 Tory victory, anybody? Yeah. There will always be headlines sensationalised and politicians making loaded statements, and that's not going to change. So unless this inquiry deals with our own hypocrisy, it's pointless.
I suppose what I get cross at is when people... I get what you're saying about the online fake news stuff, but I get very cross when people say the media, newspapers... makes things up. Yeah. We so don't make things up, Graeme, you know. I've been working in newspapers for 30 years now, and especially in the past 5 or 6 post-Leveson. The rules, the hoops we have to go through now to get a story in the paper, it's just beyond belief. They're the bane of my life. And, you know, journalists are ruled by criminal law. We can, you know, and your paper can be fined £1 million if you mess up. So the idea that we make stuff up really upsets me.
So what, you say that papers don't ever make... There's not a single paper that have made anything up?
I know what you're going to say. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. You were involved in a story that was not true.
Yeah, I was, but there are thousands of people that are involved in stories that aren't true.
Okay, well,
sport. There's so much speculation about sports people that are totally inaccurate.
People don't make stories up. Inaccurate is one thing. If someone has told something and we've checked it as best we can, inaccurate is one thing. Made up is entirely another. Papers do not make up stories, and it really makes me. You know, it's like me saying to you, all footballers are stupid. No, listen. It's like me saying to you, all footballers are stupid. It's a sweeping generalisation. We know it's not true. You're the living, breathing embodiment of the fact that it's not true. But you know, it makes me, because the media is blamed for everything.
No, it's got nothing to do with blaming everyone. I think we have the best press in the world.
Do you?
Absolutely do. Absolutely do. But you can't say that people don't take, as in my case, you know, the question of me being homosexual, when there was nothing to back that up.
Why didn't you sue?
Why didn't I sue? Yeah. Because I wasn't able to. Because the way they framed it, I was unable to. This was in the mid-90s.
Right, OK.
So I didn't have the opportunity.
You could have found a lawyer.
I've had stories written about friends of mine that have been false, and they get a retraction this big. Yeah. And then if they do settle, it goes to a charity. OK, so
but it's a different world.
It is a different world, yes.
Let me explain. And I hear what you say. One of the most popular fake stories from last year was a story of a woman who got fired and she went in at lunchtime and defecated on her boss's desk. That was shared by... No need to laugh, it wasn't you, was it? That was shared by millions all around the world. Totally and utterly untrue. Probably made up by some spotty teenager in Cincinnati using the name Cheeky Monkey or whatever it might be. Now, if that had been printed in... I won't name a newspaper, but it's not fair. But it had been printed in a British newspaper, as Carol rightly says, you could have gone for them straight away. Yeah. And that is the reality of it. You should have gone after the newspaper on that occasion. You really should have gone after the newspaper on that occasion. And that is different. And you say we've been faking it for years. I agree with Carol. I've been writing stories for decades and I've never knowingly faked it.
Have you ever distorted stories
Explain distortion.
to fix an agenda that a publication might be trying to push?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Do you think that's okay?
Well, when you define distortion, so you could look at the Brexit vote last night, right? If I'm working for the Mail or Telegraph or the Sun, this is the greatest triumph history has made. Off we go, we're out. If I'm working for the Mirror or the Guardian, I have a totally different look. Please, can the Lords intervene? We need some sanity. So I don't call that distortion, I call that interpretation for your title.
How does it work? So help me, because I'm not a journalist, I don't understand. How does it work in terms of verifying sources of stories? Because I often read... Yeah, I want a journalist to explain.
I think there is an issue with fake news, because in Brexit we were told that the Queen would resign, or abdicate if Britain didn't leave. We were told that the Pope backed Trump and all manner of stuff. What we have to focus on is the regulated press, and the newspapers in this country are almost all regulated, either self-regulated or under impress, which we've discussed before, which we don't want to go into again.
No.
Right.
We are in a different universe when it comes to what appears on the page or on a newspaper website. Where we are in the Wild West, Graham, is the unregulated platforms, the irresponsible platforms, the kids sitting in Macedonia being paid per 100 words to make stuff up that can go on Facebook or Google, which, by the way, has stolen all the advertising from the responsible, regulated, researched, verified press and is destroying us. That is the problem.
And all those crazy stories you're talking about, they reflect very badly on the print media because they assume that because they're doing it, we're doing it too. And that's just not happening.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're talking of the extreme, which I completely agree with. But I'm saying that if we're going to have an inquiry into fake news in its extreme, why aren't we dealing with the issues that we've got with our own media here, in the sense of...
Like what? You're talking about websites, you're talking about the press, what are you talking about? There are so many media outlets now.
Well, there are, and that's, I mean, to a point, that's why this inquiry, for me, is completely pointless, because how are they going to try and regulate...
No, they can't. I think they should leave the press alone and look at the other unregulated...
Yes, exactly.
But
to Michelle's
question.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Your question about how it works, people, I don't think a lot of people do understand...
My question is, that I read stories all the time, and it'll say, a source said, an anonymous MP said, a friend said. Just help me understand. Let me finish my question. Help me understand how, as a journalist, how does it work in terms of verifying sources and being able to print stories without revealing the source?
I get a tip-off that Graeme Le Saux is going to be the next manager of the England football team. We all have a bloody good laugh, I know. But then we ring up the English FA, we have absolutely no comment. We ring up Graeme Le Saux, his agent's not available for comment. Then you come down and you try and assess the situation, and it's on the strength of your contact. And if he or she has got a blameless record of tipping you off for football stories, and they are always right, it is then down to the editor to say, right, this bloke's never lets down. We're going to say that Graeme Le Saux is the next manager of England.
And you'll present
that's speculation.
That is speculation.
But
That's
again,
not necessarily a fact. No. There are stories where facts are involved, and the thing is, you talk to someone who, if it's regarding an event, the person was there, but they don't want to say they were there. So they've seen it, they know it happened, they can verify absolutely. They might even have a tape that it's happened. However, they can't say it's them. So that's why we would say an anonymous source said.
Or
anonymous to us.
And a lot of MPs will say...
But I don't think that's acceptable, because I've had very personal... Let me explain why. I've had very personal stories printed about me, and to this day, when I've tried to find out who is the source that was selling me out, I cannot, for love nor money,
you won't
find out.
Because the source who sold you out is not going to tell you, and the newspaper is not going to tell you, because they're going to protect the source, and that's what we do.
Anyway, coming to just to defend Facebook and Google, we spoke about them for a minute. So they are well aware of what they're doing in terms of enabling news to spread virally. So they're creating something. It launches in France at the end of this month, called Crosscheck. So what they're doing is they're getting all of the local media companies to come together, and they're creating a platform where people can actively check the sources and verify the stories that are being printed. If you see something that you think is false, you can flag it. The media outlets will actually sit and reinforce, is it right, is it fake, is it real, should it come down? And I think we need to see more responsible management from media and technology platforms as well to counter that.
I think the confusion here is between source and which publishing platform is actually publishing something, and there's a difference. If somebody told Nick that Graeme was going to become the next manager, that is the source. If you publish that in the Express, that's the platform where this material was made public.
Yeah, just quickly, I can confirm I'm not going to be the next manager. But also, I think we've got to be a bit more honest about the agendas that, whether it's newspapers or whatever, the agendas that they have, the bias that they have. And also, we've got to continually stress test them to make sure that their sources are verified, so that people don't find themselves on the wrong side of a massive story and it being completely inaccurate.
Can I make one final point?
Because it's no, you can't. I'm sorry. It's doors to manual and cross-check. It's my take-off now.
I'll make it on my Twitter after.
Go on, then. You do that.